Please sit. Why don't you enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea?
I don't need any calming tea! I need to capture the Avatar!
The tea I'm making today is inspired by one of my favorite characters from Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko's tea-loving Uncle Iroh. I'm making a jasmine oolong tea with a twist, adding some lemongrass and orange zest to brighten an otherwise very mellow tea blend. I have Iroh on my mind in part because he represents an unusual presence. If you haven't watched the show, then here's a brief summary. Within the world of Avatar, there are 4 nations representing 4 elements, and although they once had harmony, the Fire Nation has declared war. Prince Zuko and his Uncle Iroh are tasked by the warmongering Fire Lord to find and capture the Avatar, who poses the biggest threat to the Fire Nation's victory. It is within this setting that Iroh provides counsel to his nephew Zuko, always encouraging him to embrace peace and rest, no matter the circumstance. There's something about rest and the element of fire that I haven't been able to get out of my mind. Today is the last day of September, and throughout this whole month I've been severely divided between 2 desires. One is to push myself to my limit in order to accomplish what I think I should be focused on, and the other is to simply rest. Although rest has seemed like the opposite of what I should do or want, it is what I feel the Lord calling me into, and by faith I know He will use my rest to accomplish His plans, and in that is the mystery. When I ponder the relationship between rest and fire, one story from the Bible comes to mind. It is what Daniel writes about his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. For context, this event takes place while the nation of Israel has been defeated by and enslaved to Babylon, whose king is Nebuchadnezzar. The king creates a golden image that he commands the entire nation of Babylon, including the Israelites, to bow down to and worship. Otherwise, they will be burned to death in a fiery furnace. In response, in the middle of the entire nation, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego tell the king, "Nebuchadnezzar, we are not in need of an answer to give you concerning this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to rescue us from the furnace of blazing fire, and He will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if He does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods, nor worship the golden statue that you have set up." The king was so infuriated that he heated up the furnace 7-fold for Daniel's friends, so hot that it killed the men who bound and led Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The 3 men still fell into the fiery furnace, and in that moment, when everything seemed to have turned for the worst, there was a miracle. Daniel states, "Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astounded and stood up quickly. He said to his counselors, 'Was it not 3 men that we threw bound into the middle of the fire?' They replied to the king, 'Absolutely, O king.' He responded, 'Look, I see 4 men untied and walking about in the middle of the fire unharmed, and the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods.' In that moment, the king saw his enemies saved by God. And in fact, King Nebuchadnezzar begins to praise God and declares a new law that no one should speak anything against the God of the Israelites, or else they would be torn limb from limb. What happened in this moment was not an accomplishment by Daniel's friends, or the result of some sort of extra effort. The three of them simply surrendered to the circumstances and had enough faith in God to submit themselves with integrity, whether they burned or not. It is in this moment that I see another scripture come to life, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Many scholars believe that the fourth man in that furnace was Jesus. I think this biblical example is a great representation of what kind of life Jesus calls us into. We are called to surrender our lives even to the fire or wrath from the world, and yet we will not lose our life if we trust in the God who saves. We can cling to the promise of resurrection by the example that Jesus set for us in his death and resurrection. One of the many things in nature that represents this duality well is the pine tree. It stays green for its whole life, undying even in the winter, but it does have a life cycle. As time goes on, it drops many pine cones, and most of the time a squirrel or a bird will come along and crack open the cone to feast on the pine nuts with it. But sometimes the pine cone survives on the forest bed, waiting, and it waits for a wildfire. In the wildfire, the old trees will be burned away, but the pine cones are designed to open up and release their seeds in the heat and the ash to plant an entirely new forest. It's a beautiful design, and it is one of the reasons why we control burn many pine forests here in the USA. My husband and I went to Yellowstone at the beginning of the month, and we were sad to see so much devastation to the forests by the pine beetles. I couldn't help but think the entire time how badly those forests need to be burned so they could be resurrected again. Lately, it feels like I am that mountain, still clinging to dead trees that need to be burned away so new life can begin. While I was on a walk through Elk Meadow up in Evergreen, Colorado, I came across a felled tree out on its own. The largest parts of the trunk and branches had died and were in a state of decay, but it had fallen into a pool of water where new roots took form. As a result, 2 trees now grew from the once fallen dead tree, and birds rested in their branches again. As I sat and watched the birds, I kept thinking about all the signs around us that death leads into life, and how beautiful that is. It is my hope and prayer that alongside me you would be encouraged to find the faith to rest, no matter your circumstances, and to have peace knowing that you are not saved by your own efforts, but by the grace of God. I want to share some of my trip to Yellowstone with you, but I also want to share the part that I needed the most, my time of rest by the fire. Please come and join me.